Welcome back, guys. AC Card Shark here with the Sharks Top 10 NES games. These are my top 10 favorites personally. Not necessarily life-changing for anyone else in this world, but for me it was just my top 10 favorites for one reason or another. So let's kick this thing off, starting with number 10. Vegas Dream, number 10. It was released in Japan as Viva Las Vegas. It was developed by HAL Laboratory. It was released in 1988. Began with graphics showing the player arriving in Las Vegas by airplane, where you could initially spend up to $700 on 4 games, which were Keno, Blackjack, Roulette, or slot machines. In between the rounds of play at the normal casino games, there were randomly occurring social interactions. They were really, honestly, they were really just compulsive like slot machine games with random results. Sometimes it was an unidentified man. Sometimes they were pickpockets. Other times he's just down on his luck and he rewards you with kindness down the road. But it's basically it's a gambling game. It's just straightforward. I remember renting this game when I was a little kid, and I guess I should have seen what was coming in my life, which was working in casinos. But it's a good time. It's fun, and eventually there is a point where you can technically quote unquote win the game. But I think you have to have like $10 million or something when you start with 700. So it takes a while. And there is a password save system, but it technically really never worked. So it was really just like a one-session kind of game. All right, number 9 was originally a game for the PC, but it's Maniac Mansion. It was originally released in 1987 for, I believe, the Apple II and the Commodore. But in the early 90s, they basically ported it over to the NES. It's a simple not really simple, I shouldn't say that, but point-and-click adventure, typical of old computer games in the 80s and 90s. It's amazing. The only problem with it is that on the NES they had to censor a lot of it, where on the computer they had stuff talking about like Playboy magazines and actually I should say a Playboy calendar. And profanity, religious and political views, all that kind of stuff had to be cleaned up before they could port it over to the NES because it was such a quote unquote family system. But it doesn't really lose any of its charm. It's still an amazing game. If you guys have never tried it, I really suggest it. But it was originally a computer game, like I said, and they chose in the early 90s. I believe it was actually 1990 to port it over to the NES. So that's number 9 on my list. Alright, number 8 is DuckTales. It's the video game based on the Disney animated TV series. It was first released in the United States for the NES in 1989. I don't really need to say much about this game. I think pretty much anyone who's familiar with the NES has either played this or at least heard of it. But Scrooge McDuck travels around the world collecting treasures, trying to become the world's richest duck. It's just pure fun. It's just an amazing game. I love it. It's such a fun time. I've beaten it like probably 30 times. I still play it all the time. But it was later ported to the Game Boy. And actually later on they actually released DuckTales 2, I believe, which didn't even hit half the popularity of DuckTales 1. I'm not sure why this game is so charming. I don't know why it's so well received and everyone knows it, but whatever they did it right. It's a great game, a lot of fun. Number 7 on the list was released in 1989 for the NES, River City Ransom. The plot follows high school students Alex and Ryan as they cross River City and attempt to rescue River City High and Ryan's girlfriend, Cindy, from the villain, which they call Slick. Along the way, they battle with gangs of students and several bosses, sub-bosses, all that kind of stuff. It's been described as a cross between a beat-em-up and a role-playing game. It follows a linear path from pretty much from start to finish. The fighting style is very similar to Double Dragon, being that the player can move freely around the screen while pressing buttons to punch, kick, or jump. But their effectiveness in battle is actually determined by several statistics and their knowledge of fighting techniques such as Grand Slam, Stone Hands, Dragon Feet, which can all be upgraded throughout the game and purchased in items in shops. You can purchase them like items in shops throughout the city using funds that you get from defeating gang members and all that kind of good stuff. So you can input passwords to keep track of your stats, skills, your possessions, all that kind of stuff. And later versions of the game discarded the password system in favor of a save system. If you guys don't have an original NES, you can actually get this game on the Virtual Console on the Wii for, I believe, 500 points. It was released in 2008 on the Virtual Console. So if you either way, if you can pick up an old cart if you have an NES, or if you just have the Virtual Console on the Wii, either way, I highly recommend this game. It's very addictive. It's a lot of fun. American Technos did an amazing job putting this game together. It's definitely one of my favorites. Number 6 on the list was Kung Fu for the Nintendo. A little bit of a strange choice, I know, for the masses, but I remember this game when it first was released in arcades in 1984 as Kung Fu Master. I remember spending like a roll of quarters every time I was there playing this game, and in October of 1985, right after I had bought, or not bought, but actually Santa Claus, quote unquote, brought me my Nintendo. This was actually the first game I bought with my own allowance, and I was just so stoked when I found out that this game was coming out for home play. It's such a fun game. Basically, the storyline is that there's a villain, Mr. X. He kidnaps your girlfriend, Sylvia. You're playing as Kung Fu Master Thomas, and it takes place over 5 stages. You have to cross each stage, taking out or avoiding all the enemies you see in your way. You can punch, kick, standing, jumping, crouching, all that kind of good stuff. Enemies can come from the left or right, and you have to fight them off from basically from all directions. Most enemies are taken out in single hits, either single punch or single kick. But at the end of every stage, basically, there's only 5 stages to the game, very short game. But there's a boss at every level of the dojo that you're in. And eventually you get to fight Mr. X, the enemy, or the main boss, at the end of level 5. And you rescue your girlfriend. All is well with the world. It's just a typical mid '80s, early stages video game storyline. But I just remember always loving this game in the arcades and just playing it like every day when I was a little kid. So that's definitely number 6 on my list.